Morning, beloved ones. Turn to somebody and tell them, I'm alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic. I'm alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic. Yeah. Alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic. All right. I'm alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic. Yes. So are you really alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic? Yeah. Well, you know, we should be, because there's a lot going on that is dynamic and transformative and evolutionary that's going on right now in this very moment. That statement or phrase is really an old affirmation. It's a standard affirmation from Unity. And it's I'm alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic. And it was actually also part of what they used to call joy songs. Now, I don't know how, some of you may not have been in Unity around. I see Angela shaking her head, but we used to have what's called joy songs. And our hymnal was made up of all these songs that were just happy, you know. And this one went, I'm alive, alert, awake, enthusiastic. I'm alive, alert, awake, enthusiastic. I'm alive, alert, awake. I'm awake, alert, alive. I'm alive, alert, awake, enthusiastic. And so, you know, we would sing that, and you'd clap, and it was meant to awaken you to the joy of living. As, you know, in the early days, they thought a lot about, it was practical Christianity, but they wanted you to be positive in your approach. And so we would sing these joy songs, and people would come to visit, and they'd say, well, your hymnal's kind of strange. It's a little interesting. But it was meant to awaken us, awaken the spirit. Didn't you feel that energy flowing to it when you said to someone, I'm alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic? It was, so they were meant to awaken that energy within us into the joy of living. But it seems like we are a little bit beyond the need for joy songs to wake us up, because we need only sort of look around at what is happening in, you know, in the world or in the state of being, and we can tell that something is afoot, you know, or that we need something to move us towards hopefulness or positive progression, or the unfoldment of something that is dynamic and strong and good. We don't need a joy song. We can just look, and life is telling us that there's something that we need to move us in that direction. There's a lot of talk around, and maybe even some hype, around the year 2012. I don't know if you've heard any of it, but Wikipedia says this. And well, you all know what Wikipedia is, right? Okay. Look, I'm just proud that I can go online and look at it, you know? Shucks. My old set of World Book encyclopedias are old. My mother got those when we were younger, and you know how that was a long time ago, so I don't trust too much of the information in my World Book encyclopedia, although some of it is still good, but I go to Wikipedia now. But anyway, Wikipedia says this. It says that the 2012 phenomenon comprises of a range of eschatological, and all eschatological means, and it's a biblical phrase, and it means end times. It's the study of end times. So it says that this 2012 phenomenon comprises a range of eschatological beliefs that cataclysmic or transformative events will occur on December 21st or 23rd, 2012, which is said to be the end date of a cycle in the Mayan long count calendar. So basically, a lot of the thoughts surrounding 2012 are the result of the Mayan calendar, and it just says it's an end of a cycle, but somehow or another it got translated to mean the end of everything, right? And so as you can imagine, people have, you know, lots of people have various beliefs and scenarios and thoughts surrounding that this whole 2012, from the end of the world, or perhaps maybe from a Christian perspective, it could be the onset of Armageddon, or Some people believe that it might be the earth having some type of cataclysmic collision with a meteor, or maybe the sun is going to lose its power to shine and its energy, or as others believe that it simply might be a onset of a deep and powerful spiritual transformation. And there isn't a lot of scientific evidence for the end of the world necessarily coming. But what I believe is happening, I believe that what's happening is what has been happening since the beginning of time. And that is evolutionary growth. Evolutionary and spiritual growth. We're in the midst of a growth spurt. You know how the growth spurt is, right? Things are going along, and all of a sudden, you look around and your child is like, wow, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches bigger, like overnight. So we're in the middle of a growth spurt, a moving from one era into another. Back in the 60s, they were singing about it was the dawning of the age of Aquarius. We're moving into a different age. Right? Or we're moving in, it's the movement or transition from one mindset into another, one way of believing and thinking and seeing and perceiving the world into another. We have to have these evolutionary leaps in consciousness because it's part of growth. We used to think that the world was flat, and we had an evolutionary leap, and we understood it differently, and we grow. We used to think the world was round, and now we know that it's not round, it's sort of oval shaped. And so each time there's a new understanding, but it takes a while to get there. It might be an age, and an age is about 2,000 years, or an era. So we're moving into a new era, a new age, and a new shift, a new level of consciousness. And yes, as I said before, some things will end, but not necessarily the world. But what will end is the way we have been living and thinking and expressing and being in the world. That is what is changing, and that is what must change. We've got to do it differently. We've got to be different in the world. Jesus said, be ye in the world, but not of it. And so we're learning how to be in it, but not of it. The of it that I'm talking about is we've got to be sort of other worldly, have an other mindset. That's what my book is going to be about. I've got a couple of paragraphs, and so I'm working on it. But it's going to be how to be in the world, but not of it. Okay? And so this is what we're being called to do. But I think what is changing the most, and this is very exciting, but what is changing the most, of what we are in the midst of the most, is our ability to remain asleep. That's what's changing the most. Our ability to remain unconscious. Unconscious about who we are as spiritual beings, and about our co-creative responsibilities, not just our abilities, but our co-creative responsibilities as well. Things are changing. The lines of difference between evolutionary theories and creationism, there used to be a big, debate. But the lines between evolutionary theories and creationism, they're moving closer and closer together. Science and spirituality, or science and religion, are beginning to prove one another. Prove one another through the understanding and the acceptance of a higher realm, or of an otherworldly realm, a higher consciousness beyond just the physical plane, the physical level. Quantum physics has helped us to understand that there really is a spiritual dimension. So science is now coming along, and religion and spirituality are moving closer. There's evidence now, concrete, strong evidence of what we've already known, but there's evidence that there's a connection between spirit, mind, and body. That all those three are interrelated and connected, that we are not just physical beings, but we are spirit, mind, and body. We have a spirit, we have mind, and we have a physical expression. And that there's a role that we play in bringing forth the optimum expression of all three of those levels. There's a role we play through our consciousness, through our thoughts, through our perceptions, through our feelings, through our energy field. Consciousness creates. We've known it, but now others are finding out. Consciousness creates, my friends, and so we can no longer remain asleep to life. We are awakening to Christ consciousness. We are awakening to spiritual consciousness. We are awakening to our co-creative abilities as spiritual beings. Now, the process might be slow, but we are awakening to that. I got to tell you this joke. Last week I was speaking at Unity of Richmond in Richmond, Virginia. And the minister, as she was doing her introduction, told this joke, and I loved it. So she says, well, do you know what happens when an atheist calls a prayer line? The phone rings, but no one answers. But thank God when we put out that call, there's an answer, right? Because we know that God is. And so when we put that energy out, whether it's in our prayers or in our words, in our intentions, in our thought process, in our desires and wants, we know that there's that spirit of God that answers, that is fully present to us and through us. But we have to bring conscious intention and attention to all that we do. Because, friends, we are creating the world that we live in. We are creating this world right now. All the stuff that's going on, guess who created it? We did. We are creating the world that we're living in. For the most part, we aren't really even aware of it. And so it's time for us to wake up and to consciously participate in the evolutionary and spiritual growth that is taking place in the universe. And it is happening. We are growing. And just like this is a metaphor that I love, just like, we awaken every morning, right? And when we don't, then we've transitioned. But if we haven't transitioned, we awaken every morning, right? We awaken to a new day, to new possibilities. And now what's happening is we also have to endeavor to awaken spiritually every day. We have to be reminded every day to awaken in consciousness, not just with our physical bodies, getting up and yawning and stretching up, but awaken in consciousness, right? To remember daily who we are as spiritual beings, to remember our spiritual nature, not just on Sundays, but daily, to practice daily, to express some form of conscious intention to express from our higher nature. This has to be daily, daily, daily. That's why I'm very excited about our upcoming course, the Life Mastery course that'll be coming in September. Right? I'm excited about that because we're going to be engaging in working on healing and cleansing and working on some of our conscious and unconscious aspects. And we're going to do this, daily. Every day there'll be a lesson for us to understand and to practice, not just on Sundays. And so I'm very excited about that. And we're going to do this. We're going to do this until 2012 and beyond. Because there's a beyond, friends. But we're going to do that because the call for conscious evolution has been sounded. That call has sounded. Conscious evolution is simply the ability to move forward with awareness. Now, I could give you lots of scientific explanations, and we'll talk a little bit about that, about conscious evolution. But simply, it is the ability to move forward. Evolution is the unfoldment, the movement, the progression, with awareness, to be aware of that. Now, some understanding and some spiritual illumination would be nice too, but for now, I'm going to be happy with just a little bit of conscious awareness. Maybe even enlightenment might be better, even greater. But even enlightenment starts with what? It starts with awareness. There's an old saying that says, before enlightenment, you chopped wood and carried water. And after enlightenment, you chop wood and you carry water. Meaning that, enlightened or not, there is still work that we must do, the work of life that must go on. And if that's so, then why don't we make this commitment to bring our full selves to the work that we're doing, to the life that we're living, to the experiences that we're having, so that we can have greater awareness, greater purpose, greater intention, right? Conscious intention to everything that we do. We've been working, some of the leaders of the church, the board of trustees, the lay leaders, the Love and Action team coordinators, the staff, and me have all been participating in a program put forth by the Association of Unity Churches called Enlightened Leadership. And thus far, we have had 2 webinar sessions with 2 of the top leaders in the field of transformation and enlightened leadership. And Doug Krug was the first one, and he's the author of the book, Leadership Made Simple. And he's going to actually be here on March 27, giving us a workshop. It'll be an all-day intensive, and you don't really want to miss it. If you want to understand bringing a forward-thinking way to your problems or your challenges, not by what's wrong, but what is right. If you're interested in understanding a leadership model for your work experience, your work, world, if you're leading a team or if you're working with colleagues, how to do this wonderful enlightened leadership moving forward. So, and he's going to bring some of his colleagues. He trains people around Washington, D.C., all over the world. He's inviting them as well, and he wants to keep it down to 200. So, if you're going to attend, you need to register for that. It's on a love-offering basis, but it's going to be good. And then the second webinar that we had was by a woman named Cindy Wigglesworth. And she does work in conscious evolution, or what she calls spiritual intelligence. Spiritual intelligence. And as I was working Spirit, I was guided that, we're going to show these webinars to everybody, to whoever wants to view them within the church. But the leadership and, are working with it right now. But we will do, so be on the lookout for that. But what she says, the question that Cindy asks is, what is needed for conscious evolution? And her answer is quite simple. She says, spiritual intelligence. She says, we're all equipped with various levels of intelligence: physical intelligence, mental intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. And for the most part, we have concentrated on those first 2. Our life is centered around those first 2. Physical intelligence, we learned there was that in us where we learned how to, sit up, and then crawl, and then walk, and then talk. And how to master the physical body. That was an intelligence within us from the physical plane. And then we began to learn how to manipulate this realm. And then we spent the next, 12 to 18 years developing mental intelligence. Our cognitive ability, the ability to think and to reason. And so we, got all hung up in that, and we pretty much stopped there. We think that once we master the cognitive realm or our thoughts, then we've got it all. We've been to college, we've got 3 degrees or 4 degrees, several PhDs, and we've studied a lot, and we've got lots of wisdom and knowledge, and that's the end. And pretty much that's the end, right? But we've left the other 2 levels of intelligence out, which is emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence. And so she calls them, intelligence or the IQ. We've developed our mental IQ, our intelligent quotient. But we haven't done much with the latter 2. And yet both of those are needed for conscious evolution to take place. You've got to have that emotional intelligence and the spiritual intelligence in place. Now, emotional intelligence is really learning how to recognize and manage our emotions. Most of the time, we have a limited range of what our emotions are: happy and sad, or angry or joyful. But there's a whole range of emotions. And so emotional intelligence, or EQ, is simply learning how to, first of all, recognize and then manage our emotions, because we haven't been taught how to do that. For example, she says, realizing, let's say, that we're angry, you first got to realize that. And then upon that realization, then you would choose something different. So when you have a certain degree of emotional development in terms of emotional intelligence, you learn how to manage it, you learn how to recognize it. Whatever emotion, you could recognize it and then choose something different. And that's very powerful because more often than not, whenever we're in a state of angry, we just simply go unconscious. Right? We ain't choosing nothing else. We're unconscious. This is the way we feel, and we let our emotions and that energy just take us to a place where we might not want to go, but we're there. Right? Arguing. And so our emotions begin to run us, and we haven't recognized that we actually can pull them back and rein them in and control them and work with them. Because once we begin to be aware of our different emotional states and recognize them while we're in the midst of them, not after. I do good after. I'm pretty good afterwards. I can go, whoops, But if we begin to become aware of our emotional states while we're in the midst of them, then we can actually change them if needed or desired. We can change them with conscious awareness and some techniques that we can learn, but it takes practice and it takes awareness. And so we've got to develop that. And once we begin to develop emotional maturity, then we are ready to develop more spiritually, to foster our spiritual intelligence, our SQ, or our spiritual quotient. And spiritual intelligence is how she defines it simply as this. Spiritual intelligence is the ability to act with love. Then she goes on, she says, it's the ability to behave with wisdom and compassion while maintaining inner and outer peace, regardless of the situation. I'm going to read that one again because I had to raise my hand when I was reading that. It's the ability to behave with wisdom and compassion while maintaining inner and outer peace, regardless of the situation. I thought, man, I need to work on my SQ, right? Because I'm looking at how can I maintain inner and outer peace regardless of what's going on. Usually something happens and it disturbs my peace, right? Somebody says something or does something or whatever, and the next thing you know, my peace and my bliss is disturbed. So how do I maintain? I'm looking, aren't you looking for that? How to do that in the midst of it. And friends, we're going to have to learn how to do this because there's going to be lots of stuff that will be moving and shaking and disturbing our peace in the days ahead. And we've got to learn how to maintain that ability to have wisdom and compassion while stuff is moving and swirling and turning. She says that it's a wisdom, not just an ordinary wisdom. She said it's a wisdom that comes from the deepest levels of our mind. So in other words, it's not those ordinary thoughts that just run through your head. It's a deep level of wisdom that comes from your mind. And she says it is also a compassion that comes from the deepest level of your heart. So I'm thinking that it's the best and the highest that is within us. I would say that it's probably the energy and the spirit, the truth and the love of God in action. That's what she's talking about. God in action. There's a God that, the love of God is quite different than your love. The wisdom of God, the understanding of God is quite different, but we want to get to that. It's about knowing that which is beyond our intellectual knowing. We're trying to graduate just from the mental IQ. See, it's about a knowing that's beyond this intellectual knowing. It's spiritual knowing, spiritual discernment, spiritual revelation, spiritual understanding. And once we begin to work, as we work to awaken from the sleep of this world, we're going to discover the brilliance and the light of a different reality. The kingdom of God, or the kingdom of heaven, which is here right now, on earth right here, within us and all around us. We shall know the truth, really know it from an awakened state, and then it shall set us free. There's a wonderful song that we're going to be learning and singing as one of our new opening songs. And it's entitled, It's in Every One of Us. And we're going to listen to it, but here are the lyrics. It says, it's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart. Open up both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, by and by. Beloved ones, the Spirit of the living God is alive, alert, and awake within you. The question is, are you? Are you? Choose to be consciously present for your life, because now is the time, and we are the ones. Blessings. Blessings. And blessings. Blessings, blessings, blessings. And now we'll have musical inspiration. Wonderful, Henry Brown. Let's give Henry some love.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is he. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. So I sing because I'm happy. I sing